I never expected that a billionaire's return would reveal a secret that would change everything. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, but all I felt was cold. My heart pounded like a drum, drowning out the laughter from the party outside. They didn't know what I knew. He came back. Derek, the one who abandoned us all. 10 years vanished. I thought he was gone for good. Rumors swirled, horror stories whispered in dark corners. No one ever spoke about Derek without dread. Now he was striding through the door, tailored suit hugging his frame. Confidence radiated from him, sharp as a knife. But behind that smile, secrets. I could feel it in my bones. People were cheering. They were thrilled. Not me. My mind raced as I peered through the crowded room. Friends from childhood were clapping him on the back, oblivious to the storm brewing beneath the surface. I spotted Jenna, my best friend since we were kids. Her eyes sparkled, eager, thrilled. But I knew the truth. We all remembered the night he left. The twisted aftermath. Our lives torn apart. He had claimed to pursue dreams but left us shattered. Abandoned his family, his friends. How could I reconcile the charming billionaire had become with the boy who had shattered our small-town lives? The celebration felt like a fever dream. I wanted to scream, to shake people awake. But instead, I felt a lump form in my throat, slick and heavy. A sudden hush fell over the room. Tension crackled as he cleared his throat. I have something to share, he said, the air alive with anticipation. I held my breath. What more could he possibly say that might justify his return? Muffled murmurs rippled through the guests. I could see Jenna's eyes shining, full of silly hope. How could they trust him? The lights dimmed, and shadows danced across the walls. I gripped the edge of the table, nails digging in as Derek's voice rang out. I've come back to give back, but also to reveal the truth about the past I left behind. My heartbeat quickened, it echoed in my ears like an agonizing drum. Truth? What truth? My stomach coiled painfully. I exchanged glances with Jenna, her expression caught between happiness and confusion. All I could think was how someone like Derek could return, say those words, and upend our lives again. The laughter faded. A chill swept through the air as he looked straight at me, like a spotlight had turned on in the middle of a darkened room. I know you all have questions, he continued, his voice at once soothing and threatening. I felt the weight of everyone's eyes shift toward me. Anger surged within me. I could practically taste it. But let me tell you what really happened the night I left. None of you ever knew what was at stake. What was at stake? My heart stopped. I wanted to run but I couldn't tear my gaze away. The tension was so thick you could almost slice it with a knife. I could feel my palms sweating, trembling slightly. What secret could hold that much weight? Why was everyone so naive? As he spoke, a chilling silence fell over the crowd. I was drowning in uncertainty. The air felt electric. His next words were going to change everything and I was suffocating, desperate for clarity. Then, he dropped the bombshell. I didn't leave by choice. I had to protect you all from the truth. From the family legacy you never knew. Gasps filled the room. I swayed slightly, the world around me spinning. Protect us? Or was he simply spinning another tale? The heat in my chest flared. I felt trapped in a web of emotions, suspended between anger and fear. I couldn't breathe. I was drowning in questions. What could possibly justify all that pain? Was he really here to help? Or were we just about to uncover more darkness? I was rooted to the spot, paralyzed. What was the truth? I wanted to scream. I wanted answers. But all I could do was stare at him, heart racing, as the room fell eerily silent. The air crackled with unfathomable tension, the weight of his revelation hanging thick between us, promising to unravel everything we thought we knew. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The silence felt oppressive, hanging heavy in the air like a storm cloud about to burst. I could only stare at Derek, whose confident facade was cracking as the weight of his revelation settled over the crowd. The guests shifted uneasily, glancing back and forth between Derek and me, their faces painted with a mix of curiosity and judgment. I felt their eyes like hot coals against my skin. What could possibly justify all this? I finally managed to choke out, my voice trembling with pent-up fury. The laughter and vibrant energy of the party had evaporated, replaced by an electric tension that hummed in the room. Derek's eyes softened momentarily, then hardened again as if he were bracing for a gust of wind. It's complicated, I know. But I did what I thought was best. He took a step toward me, and instinctively, I took a step back, my heart racing with a blend of anger and fear. Best for whom? You. Do you even understand the wreckage you left? My words came out sharper than I intended, yet I felt a desperate need to cut through the illusions he was building around himself. He opened his mouth, searching for words, but they wouldn't come. I could see the shattering of his smooth surface. Behind it lay the boy I used to know, scared and confounded. I didn't choose to leave. I had to protect you all from the darkness of my family, the legacy that I was born into. Enough with the riddles, Derek. I exclaimed, feeling the hot tears prick at my eyes. Do you think telling us you had to protect us from something we didn't even know existed makes it hurt any less? We suffered. We've suffered 10 years without you. Anger surged through me, bitter and hot. I could feel the crowd's tension shift, some guests shifting uncomfortably, whispering amongst themselves. Jenna finally broke free from her stupor and moved to my side, placing a comforting hand on my shoulder, squeezing it lightly. Take a deep breath, she whispered, grounding me, reminding me I wasn't alone, but I wasn't ready to breathe. Not while he stood there spinning his narrative. What exactly was so dark? I asked, my voice quieter now, more demanding. What had you so terrified that you had to abandon all of us? He hesitated, the glint in his eyes wavering. It's not just me, it's my family, an entire lineage steeped in secrets and shadows. His gaze flickered to the crowd, taking in their eager faces. I came back not out of a sense of duty, but because the danger is still alive, and it's threatening everything I care about. Danger. My heart pounded as I processed his words. The whispers in our small town, the eerie stares in the grocery store, the distinct feeling of being watched. Was that what he was hinting at? A legacy of fear? But then, just as I began to harbor some understanding, a thought struck me. So all these years, you knew and you let us suffer. You didn't think it was important to share, just to protect us from the truth. My voice cracked, the betrayal bubbling to the surface again. There was a gnawing silence as he opened his mouth to respond, but instead, he exhaled deeply. I couldn't. Not until I had a plan to deal with it. And I still don't. But I'm here now, and am willing to start making it right. As if snapped from a trance, the whispers of the crowd grew louder, confusion and frustration ebbing forth. Jenna shot me a concerned glance, searching for guidance. I could barely grasp the churning emotions within me, fragments of anger, betrayal, longing for the boy who made me laugh, and now an overwhelming sense of fear that I turned away from Derek, needing distance from the man who held every shred of our past in his carefully manicured hands. But then, amidst the noise, an unexpected silence slid over the room, broken only by the faintest whisper that I didn't just come back to talk about the past. Derek's voice cut through the hushed crowd, suddenly somber, yet full of something I couldn't decipher. I came back because I received threats. Our past is coming back to haunt us. And it's coming for all of you. My heart sank, the room increasingly colder. Threats? The fear in his voice shattered the wall I had built up against him. My breath hitched as I realized his return wasn't entirely about him but also about keeping us safe, whether I liked it or not. That I felt the weight of everyone's stares, knowing I was trapped in this emotional whirlwind. The truth tangled with fear, I was desperate for answers that wouldn't come easy. Derek had returned, but our lives were still hanging by a thread, tangled in his legacy, a web woven with dark secrets. What had I gotten myself into? And as Derek stood there, tension radiating from him, my reflection flickered in the glass behind him, a reflection of a girl on the brink of everything unraveling. The distant sunset outside began to fade, leaving only darkness in its wake, a prelude to the storm that was brewing, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were all about to be swept away. The vibrations of the gathering swelled and then rocked to a near silence as Derek's words settled heavily in the air. I felt everyone's attention shift back and forth like a pendulum, uncertainty lacing every cracking whisper that flitted through the room. Derek, the embodiment of my past, stood frozen in time, wearing the weight of his secrets like armor, but what was now hidden beneath was far more dangerous than anything I had imagined. In that moment, I couldn't process the fear swirling within me, nor the newfound urgency in Derek's voice. The specters of our shared years loomed overhead, ominous and suffocating. Every laugh from happier times, every confiding conversation, now served only to amplify the void that had birthed from his absence. I turned instinctively toward Jenna, desperate to anchor myself inside the chaos. What does he mean? She whispered, her brow knitted with concern. Threats? There hasn't been anything in town I don't know. The words fell from my lips like lead, weighted with doubt and desperation. But then again, what do we really know? The air shifted again as Derek attempted to clear his throat, to reclaim his authority in front of the scattered guests. I ask that you all remain calm. This isn't just about me, it's about our community. His voice layered with that familiar gentle resolve, but it didn't hold the comfort it once had. Community? I scoffed, though my heart ached for the boy who used to believe in dreams and ideals. You abandoned us. Your community. How could we possibly believe this isn't just another part of your plan? There was a flicker of vulnerability on his face, a cut that ran deeper than any wound I could inflict. I know I let you down. I didn't want to bring my darkness to you all. I thought staying away would save you. But as he finished, I saw a flicker of anger, badged with frustration. But now they're coming, and they're not just going to sit idly while I try to make amends. Disbelief cascaded through me like a crashing wave. Threatening shadows felt like a distant Hollywood thriller or a badly scripted drama, not an echo of reality. Yet, here we were, standing on the precipice of whatever cryptic dangers lurked in the shadows. I need to go. I turned away from him, the fight slipping from my fingers like sand. The room was closing in, the chatter and the nervous glances tightening around me as if I were locked within a cage of judgment and worry. Wait. Derek called out, desperation threading his voice. No. I couldn't. I wouldn't do this with him. Not in front of the crowd pressuring me for an answer, eyes now glistening with fear. And not with the memories that clung to every corner of this venue that were meant to cradle joy. I pushed my way past Jenna, who tried to reach for my arm in concern, and stepped out onto the balcony, gasping for the cool night air that brushed against my flushed skin. The coolness bit against me as I leaned over the railing, staring down into the dark abyss below. I thought I could escape the claustrophobia of the party, but my thoughts were tethered to the very man I tried to run from. The legacy he had brought back was like a tidal wave crashing over the shoulders of our once peaceful town. A sudden rustle caught my attention, pulling me from my spiraling emotions. I turned, heart racing, eyes scanning the images of the cool velvet sky sprinkled with starlight. That's when I spotted a figure standing at the edge of the street below, cloaked in shadows. Derek. I shouted, my heart pounding. I pulled away from the railing, squinting at the figure. There's someone down there. At the sound of my voice, the figure darted further into the darkness as if it had been waiting for the opportune moment to disappear. A wave of foreboding rushed over me. I peered back into the party. Derek's concerned eyes had found me again, but embarrassment mingled with dread held me captive. "Get inside. Now!" I cried, my primal instincts hunting for protection, driven by an irrational fear I couldn't shake. But as Derek's brows furrowed, the tightening grip of agony in my heart twisted as he hesitated, torn between me and the crowd. The figure vanished entirely into the shadows, absorbed by the promise of night. So much darkness. So many unanswered questions swirling around like dust motes caught in sunlight. With each moment that passed with Derek's hesitation weighing on my mind, the creature of anxiety I thought I had mostly tamed surged back. "What is happening?" I demanded, turning to face him, tears welling in my eyes again. "What did you bring back with you? What danger have you returned to us?" And just as I thought hope was slipping through our fingers like grains of sand, Derek replied, his voice laced with an emotion I couldn't place. "I'll explain everything, but you have to trust me." "Trust?" I scoffed, my heart beating furiously. "You expect me to trust the very person who left me with a past full of suffering?" But then the ground shifted beneath us as the night deepened, dragging with it an unsettling truth only the darkness could keep, a truth that both pulled us together and threatened to tear us apart forever, leaving us at the exact edge where love mingled with fear, and uncertainty hung over us like an unsheathed sword. That I stepped back, wrapped in anxiety, and the weight of impending choices buckled my heart. "Derek, we aren't safe anymore, are we?" A gnarled smile flickered over his lips, wild uncertainty dancing in his gaze. "Not until we confront the secrets that stalk us both," and under the vastness of that ink-black sky, another piece fell into place, a revelation so shocking it left me breathless, ensnared by the looming specter it conjured. "There's more, isn't there?" I whispered, already dreading what the truth would unveil. The agony simmering in his eyes felt like a knife into the dark fabric of my reality, and I realized this was only the beginning of a storm that would change everything. The air thickened with tension, and dread wove its way through the fabric of my heart. Every word I had ever exchanged with Derek cascaded back to me, resonating with a painful clarity. I had dismissed his words, his warnings, as romanticized echoes of an innocent past. But now, as his shadow loomed above me, I felt the crushing weight of the mess we had both created. "What else, Derek?" I pressed, my voice trembling. "What do I need to know?" His silence hung between us, palpable and heavy. My mind raced, invading every corner of my memory, every cherished moment now tinged with doubt. I could almost hear the whispers of our shared history, the laughter, the dreams, but now they were inseparable from the fears he brought back with him. "Are you even safe?" I forced the words out, desperate for more than just the lines drawn in the sand. Behind those secrets of his, I could sense a flaw, a crack that threatened to spew forth the chaos he sought to contain. For a fleeting moment, I caught a glimpse of Derek's resolve as the shadows seemed to curl around him, enshrouding him in the turmoil of his own making. "Being here, together, might be the only thing that keeps the darkness at bay," he said quietly, almost a plea wrapped in an ambiguous promise. That I shook my head, wrestling with the whirlpool of emotions. "You can't expect me to believe that. If your presence is what brought this on, how can we possibly move forward, in the same way that we started everything?" he countered, his eyes fierce with earnestness. "Together." He stepped forward, and despite every fib of my heart warning against it, I took one small, tentative step back towards him. Just standing there, wrapped in the fragility of trust and an all-consuming dread, I could see the child I once knew behind the heartbreak. Yet it felt like standing on a precipice, staring down into a chasm that held promises but also perils beyond measure. "That I can't stand this uncertainty, Derek. You don't understand. I'm tired of living in the shadows of your choices." My voice broke, threading a needle into the raw wound that had been ripped open in front of the gathering storm. "But I'm back. I came back to fix this," he urged. "I thought this would be the way forward, to show that I'm willing to try to reclaim who I was before everything fell apart." "Reclaim? What if you're only bringing more despair?" I blurted out, each word a fresh wound that cut through any vestige of hope that lingered in the air between us. Derek's expression faltered, a flicker of regret weaving its way across his features. "You think I wanted this?" "I never wanted to hurt you," but the threats he swallowed hard, his gaze drifting to the shadows that danced beyond the boundaries of our confrontation. They're real, and they're not just coming for me. They know your name, too. The air expelled from my lungs like a whispered scream, blood rushing to my ears as I staggered back. What do you mean they know my name? Who are they? Panic coursed through my veins, pulling at the threads of sanity that had barely held me together. That I can't go into details now, but people are watching. Waiting. His voice lowered to a hushed intensity. And if you ever had any notion of a perfect life back home, you need to realize that those days are over. It's a whole new game. A bitter chill gripped my heart, sending tremors of fear cascading down my spine. Then why are you here? If my name is in their sights, fighting in some twisted game, you are the last person I need around, I scoffed, the anger bubbling up unpredictably. Each word felt like fire licking at my insides, igniting a whirlwind of tumultuous emotions between us. But even through the torrent of hurt and fear, something deep inside me wanted to reach out, to understand him. There was a plea behind those haunted eyes, a rawness in the desperation of his humanity that I couldn't ignore. Please, I need you to listen to me, he insisted, stepping closer. You can't escape from this. None of us can. But together, we can stand a chance. The night wrapped securely around us, nurturing the uncertainty that clung to our interactions. I lowered my gaze, swallowing back the wild surge of emotions that clamored for release. Just then, a shadow shifted behind him, flitting at the edge of the balcony, a sudden movement that jolted me back into a reality I didn't want to face. Derek! Behind you! I gasped, but before I could finish, the figure darted away again, cloaked in the night's anonymity. Derek spun around, adrenaline surging, and before he could act, darkness swallowed the space where the figure had lingered, leaving nothing but silence in the wake of our growing fears. See? He murmured, his expression a mix of dread and raw determination. It's not just about us anymore. What do we do? The question slipped from my lips like a prayer, heavy with uncertainty. That I need you to stay close, to trust me. There's no guarantee this will end well, but I promise I will protect you, he vowed, his voice a steadfast mantra, though the conviction in his gaze faltered as the night stretched around us. That we stood there, teetering on the edge of the unknown, linked by a bond fraught with struggle and the lingering pain of a fractured past. Yet even within that chaos, a small ember of hope flickered, igniting the possibility that perhaps, just perhaps, we could fight this tide together. And yet, even as I reached for Derek's hand, hearts pounding, our undeniable connection challenged the darkness around us. I couldn't shake the feeling that a reckoning was fast approaching. One final truth, unfurling like a serpent ready to strike, waited to expose itself, threatening to unravel everything we thought we understood. For in that moment of tenuous hope, I felt the winds of fate shifting, signaling a storm we were not prepared for, one that would tear through our lives and unearth secrets that could either save us or lead to our absolute ruin. And sometimes I wondered, as uncertainty gripped my heart, would I ever be able to forgive him should the shadows swallow me whole? The night felt more oppressive as silence descended around us, thick as the blanket of darkness that pressed against my skin. I stood hand in hand with Derek, our fingers entwined, but it was more of a tenuous grasp than a promise. The air seemed to vibrate with everything that had yet to be spoken, all the fears and uncertainty suspended like a fragile crystal hanging just by a single thread. That we should go inside, I murmured, my voice barely audible over the throbbing pulse in my ears. I can't think out here. Derek nodded, yet his gaze lingered on the shadows as if something lingered just out of view. I felt the weight of his attention, but it wasn't comforting anymore. The warmth of his hand felt like it belonged to a different time, one that had been swept away in the storm of choices and secrets that loomed between us now. Inside the house, the cozy familiarity of the dim light and the scent of cedar wood failed to soothe the tumult within me. I felt like a moth caught in a flame, drawn helplessly towards something that could both illuminate and consume me. I turned away from Derek, a belt of tension forming around my chest, and paced the living room, feeling the walls close in on me. What do you really want, Derek? I asked, voice trembling. Is it redemption? Or is it something else? His brows knitted together, and he took a deep breath. This isn't just about the past, you have to know that. I need you to understand what's at stake. And I need you to understand what it means to stand in the middle of your chaos. I snapped, the emotions that had lain dormant bubbling back to the surface. Chaos? He echoed, his tone raising like a challenge. You've been living in your own illusion, trying to pretend that everything's fine while I've been fighting demons that threaten to set fire to everything you believe in, everything I believe in. I felt anger flushing my cheeks. What about what I had to believe in? It was you who turned your back and left, Derek. You were the one who let those demons in, I know. He shouted, his voice breaking under the weight of regret. I know I did. But I can't go back and change that. I'm here now. I thought that meant something. Something in me softened at his pain, glimpsing the truth behind those stormy eyes. My anger faded, replaced by a deep ache for the little boy I had known, the man who had done everything to prove himself only to find himself outmatched by a darkness he didn't fully understand. Tell me about the threats, Derek. Who are they? I softened, inching the boundary between us closer. He ran his fingers through his disheveled hair, looking weary beyond his years. It's complicated. They're connected to my family. They didn't want me to come back and disrupt the peace they've tried to forge since I left. Your family. I felt a creeping dread. What does that even mean? Just that they have their own agendas. It's not just about money or power, it's about control and maintaining a status quo that I once embodied. I thought I could break free from it, but coming back may have put you in even greater danger, he confessed, his voice hoarse. So leaving was the mistake. Coming back is now another. I inhaled shakily, grappling with the idea that all this tension within us was a manifestation of a bigger story, layers upon layers of deception and fear. At that moment, the power flickered, and an eerie silence enveloped the room, interrupted only by the sound of my heartbeat, a wild drum sounding ominously in a symphony of impending doom. The lights surged back, illuminating Derek's frightened expression as he moved closer. We need to go, he whispered urgently. Go where? My voice shook. Anywhere but here, he insisted, eyes darting toward the darkened windows. We can't stay in the house, it's too predictable. It'll take you to someone who can help. Who? My heart raced. What do you mean? Derek grabbed my arm and pulled me toward the door. Layla. She knows about my family's history, about the people I've crossed. We should have gone to her sooner, right, because starting a new chapter in a different book of lies sounds like a solid plan, I protested, but his grip was firm, and unease crawled under my skin like 1,000 ants. As we stepped out into the brisk air, my heart fluttered with both apprehension and a nagging inclining that perhaps this feeling deep down, this fire ignited between us, was pushing us to a greater truth. A chance I wasn't sure we were ready for, but as we made our way through the hall of dusk, I suddenly caught sight of a familiar silhouette lurked about 20 steps ahead, watching with an intensity that made my skin crawl. My heart sank as realization washed over me. Derek, look! I cried, my voice urgent. Before I could finish, the figure vanished into the dark, leaving only a faint trail of doubt clinging to the air. What was that? Derek hissed, his breath quickening. I don't know, but I think we're being followed, I whispered, dread pooling in my stomach as the nightmare I'd feigned to escape began encroaching once again. As I started to run, pulling frantically at Derek's arm, a new sense of terror struck me. We had opened a door that may never close, and the darkness ahead wasn't just covering our paths, it felt like an omen of what was to come. I could only pray it wouldn't swallow us whole. The night air was sharp, filled with the acrid scent of damp earth and something more sinister. As I sprinted alongside Derek, adrenaline coursed through my veins, numbing the fear that threatened to swallow me whole. My mind raced, tearing through memories like old pages in a forgotten book. The sensation of being hunted was all too familiar, igniting a primal instinct within me. We darted through the dimly lit streets, shadows dancing around us, an unyielding reminder of the truth lurking in the darkness. Derek's grip was steady on my arm, but I could feel the rigidity in his muscles, the pulse of anxiety radiating from him like an electric current. Do you trust me? He asked, his voice strained. Trust? I retorted, adrenaline fueling my sarcasm. You've left me with a legacy of chaos. How can I trust you now, because I'm trying to protect you? He shouted, desperation clawing at his voice. We need to keep moving. We turned a corner, and the figure loomed back into view, barely illuminated by the flickering streetlight. I froze, dread knotting my stomach. The silhouette was unmistakable, a tall frame cloaked in darkness, the outline familiar yet horrifying. Derek, before I could finish my warning, the figure lunged forward, barreling toward us with surprising speed. My instincts kicked in, and I pulled Derek back, urging him to find another way. We have to split up. Confuse them. I yelled that no. He shot back, his resolve formidable even in fear. But before he could finish, the figure lunged again, closer this time, and I spotted the glimmer of a knife reflected in a streetlight. Instincts took over. I pushed Derek aside, aiming to divert the attacker. Run! I screamed, fear twisting at my heart as I turned to face the danger head-on. The figure was inches away, and in that split second, I recognized the face. Evan. I breathed, disbelief and terror battling within me. It was a name I hadn't spoken in years, tied irrevocably to the shadows of my past, me childhood friend, whose world had spiraled out of control. Stay away from him. Evan barked, his voice guttural, twisted by rage. You think you can come back and just take him from me? I won't let you. Stop. I shouted, the fight in me blinking out against the reality of his words. I'm not taking anything. In trying to help him, Derek stood frozen, caught between choices, the fear etched in his features making me ache. Evan, this isn't you. I pleaded, hoping to reach the boy I once knew beneath this tempest of anger. You don't have to do this isn't about you. He spat, advancing as the knife glinted ominously. The chaos within him mirrored the storm raging inside me, a bitter reminder of the past we had never fully escaped, a childhood marred by secrets and loss. Derek mustered what courage he had. Evan, you don't have to go down this path. We can talk about this. His voice reverberated, the steady calm piercing through Evan's frenzied haze. But the anger had a hold on him too strong to break. With a sudden flick of his wrist, he thrust the knife towards Derek. In that split second, I hurled myself at them both, forcing them apart as the blade grazed Derek's arm. An agonizing gasp escaped my lips, a symphony of horror and disbelief flooding through me as I hit the ground. Derek stumbled, clutching his arm, eyes wide with shock. No! He cried, his voice cracking as rage filled his chest, but the world fell silent in those harsh moments, the fluff of chaos turning into a heavy shroud of stillness. My heart raced as I pushed myself up onto my knees, pain radiating through me like light breaking through a prism. I could scarcely register the sharp ache in my shoulder, my focus on Evan, on trying to reconnect. Evan, please. I cried out again, my voice trembling. This isn't who you are. You don't have to fight like this, fight. He spat bitterly, his blade still clenched within trembling fingers. I'm not fighting for me. I'm fighting for what you destroyed. For the family you left behind. The realization hit me like a slap, there was so much more at stake than I ever imagined. In his eyes, I saw the wreckage of broken trust and betrayal, a shadow I'd cast without realizing it. Evan, I'm so sorry, I said, my voice wavering with honesty. I didn't know. I thought you were gone forever, that we were all supposed to leave it behind. For a heartbeat, doubt flickered across his face. Then it hardened once more. You don't get to rewrite history. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught my eye, a swift shadow darting down the alley behind Evan. In the chaos, another figure emerged, and my heart dropped as I recognized the silhouette. Layla! I shouted, desperately reaching for the only person I thought could help us. But as she approached, her expression was grim, hands raised as if to signify both peace and urgency that we need to leave. Now, she stated with an air of authority, her eyes scanning the darkness for unseen threats, what are you talking about? Derek rasped, cradling his wounded arm. But Layla's gaze shifted from Derek to Evan, an understanding passing between them that sent chills down my spine. The storm is far worse than you think. That I could hardly breathe, the world narrowing into an unbearable pressure. Derek's pain, Evan's rage, and the insistent call of the past intertwined like a noose tightening, suffocating, pulling us back into a narrative we were desperate to escape. Before I could grasp the implications of her words, the ominous rumble of distant thunder echoed through the night, a warning of the storm yet to come. The tension boiled around us, a moment suspended in time, heavy with unsaid truths and unhealed wounds. The choice we faced was labyrinthine, dark pathways unfurling before us, beckoning us to tread where the light barely shined. It was a bitter pill to swallow. The past had returned, armed to the teeth with memories and vendettas that could shatter our fragile moment of solace. As I took a step toward Layla, hoping she held the answers, another distant flash of light illuminated the alley. Shadows shifted, revealing more figures creeping from the edges, their intentions obscured but palpably, a swarm drawn towards the secrets we thought we could handle. And in that instant, with thunder rumbling and a storm brewing both outside and in our hearts, I sensed the truth crushing down on me. Sometimes the fight isn't just against our enemies but the ghosts we summon with each choice we make. And now, the ghosts were closing in, ready to reclaim their due. The air crackled with an oppressive tension, punctuated by the looming shadows that danced on the edge of our collective dread. Layla's steady gaze held Evan's and mine, but behind her calm exterior, I could detect a well of urgency ready to spill forth. "You don't understand," she urged, her voice low and compelling. "He's not just angry, he's tangled in something much deeper than you realize." "What do you mean?" I inhaled sharply, my heart pounding with confusion and fear. The storm bore down upon us, both literally and metaphorically, as if nature itself conspired to reflect our inner turmoil. "The reason he's like this, it's not just you. It's about his family, his survival, and the power struggle that's suffocating this place." Her words hit me like a brick, each syllable dissolving the fragments of my understanding and replacing them with an icy dread. Before I could respond, the first raindrops began to fall, heavy and relentless, washing away remnants of the past while simultaneously inviting in the chaos of the present. Evan's face contorted with both confusion and rage, the knife wavering just slightly in his grip. I knew that the shadows behind the moment were deeper than any of us had anticipated, but I couldn't shake the visceral pang of guilt. Evan and I took a shaky step closer, wanting desperately to bridge this vast chasm. "Please, let me help you. Let us figure this out together." A flicker of hesitation, the barest acknowledgement of my words, broke through his defensive facade. Yet, it was instantly crushed by a fierce undercurrent of defiance. The shadows around us seemed to grow taller, wrapping themselves around Evan. "You wouldn't understand." Derek, still cradling his bleeding arm, interjected bravely despite the pain etched across his face. "What's really going on, Evan? If this is about something bigger, something that endangers your life, you can't push us away." The storm around us escalated, thunder rumbling angrily overhead, and yet beneath the sound, a different kind of echo whispered against my chest hope. It was fragile but alive, reminding me that even as the dark reached toward us, there was a chance to illuminate this moment of despair. "Evan, just listen to us for a second." I urged once more, the rain soaking through my clothes, mixing my anguish with the gravity of the moment. "You don't have to fight. We can find a way to end this cycle of hurt once and for all." For a fraction of a second, I saw a flicker of the boy I once knew, trapped deep within Evan's anguished exterior. A memory wove itself into the raw air around us, pulling at the frayed threads of our collective past, a time when we laughed together, unburdened by the weight of the demons that now closed in. But just as hope ignited, the heavy fist of reality came crashing down. From the shadows, emerging figures moved as if choreographed by fate itself, pouring into the alley like a dark tide. I recognized them immediately, others from the past, connections I never wished to revisit. "Derek, get back!" I screamed as the figures moved to encircle us, their intentions unreadable, faces blurred by years of fear and secrets. "Layla, what is happening?" Derek grasped my arm tightly, panic threading through him. The raw chaos breathing down our necks sent a chill racing through us all. "I didn't know they would find you," Layla said hurriedly, the calm in her voice transforming into fierce urgency. "You have to keep moving. They'll want to use Evan, to make him a pawn in a game that has nothing to do with you, nothing to do with any of us." The realization hit me with the force of a battering ram. We weren't just caught in a singular confrontation. The stakes had grown exponentially, weaving together our past and present, entangling us in an unforgiving plot that sought to consume every one of us. Evan's breathing quickened, and the knife trembled in his hand, a reflection of his inner battle. "I can't let them take me again," he murmured, almost to himself, though his eyes were fixed on me, a quest for connection amidst the chaos. "Please," I implored, a desperate plea radiating from my core. "You don't have to face them alone. Fight with us, for your future. For all our futures." As I reached for Evan, the rain intensified, falling heavily around us like shards of glass. But before I could bridge the gap, one of the figures stepping forward emerged from darkness with a familiar sneer that made my stomach churn. Their eyes locked with mine, realigning a cascade of emotions that threatened to drown me: betrayal, anger, confusion, and fear. "Did you really think you could hide forever?" The voice dripped with malice, each word laced with vindictive certainty. "You're back now, and there's no escape. You've brought this on yourself, and now Evan will pay the price." In that crushing moment, the gravity of my past shattered the thin veil between hope and despair. I could see the storm in Evan's eyes, the culmination of years spent lost in the dark, marred by mistakes and injustices not only for himself but for those I loved. "Run!" Layla shouted, frantically waving her arms, but the words felt hollow against the chaos that unfolded with every heartbeat. I stood at the precipice, alongside Evan, Derek, and Layla, entwined in this cycle we couldn't break. The rain began to fall heavier, and just as I opened my mouth to shout at Evan to follow, a sudden flash of lightning illuminated the night sky, revealing more silhouettes advancing fast upon us. I froze, dread pooling in my stomach, realizing the truth: we were all caught in a predatory snare, and now, whether we liked it or not, the clash between our pasts and our hopes danced perilously close to destruction. As the storm swirled around us, I wondered if we had finally reached the point of no return, where choices would birth consequences we might never escape. And just before the world erupted into chaos, I felt a stirring deep within, a flicker of resistance that questioned if I truly had the strength to confront the malevolence we had invited back into our lives. The figures surged, the rain poured down, and dread loomed over us like a dark cloud, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something unfathomable was awakening in the depths of our connection, the truth we had desperately sought to avoid. Little did I know, both Hugo's return and Evan's wrath were just the beginning of a tumultuous journey we were all destined to traverse. The storm raged on as we stood frozen, pulsing with the heightened tension of our pasts converging in such an explosive manner. Drops of rain glistened like heavy tears on our skin, but the real burden was the weight of unspoken secrets hanging in the air, thickening the atmosphere with despair. "Evan," I said, the name barely escaping my lips, but he was already caught in the whirlwind of realization. I could see it in his eyes, a slow ignition of recognition clashing against the confusion. The figures closing in on us, all cloaked in shadows and uncertain intentions, stood as a reminder of every scar etched upon our hearts. "Why did you come back, Hugo?" Derek's voice broke through the rising storm, both a defense and an accusation, the hurt evident in his tones. "You think you can just waltz in and reclaim what you lost? After everything?" The figure who stepped forward hugunly smiled, a malignant grin that flickered beneath the storm's flash. "I brought back more than just myself, Derek. I came for what belongs to me. The power you all assumed was buried." As his words trailed into the air, an unsettling sense of foreboding settled upon us, like the darkened clouds swallowing the last rays of sunlight. Amidst the chaos, I felt Layla grip my arm, her fingers colder than the rain. "We need to move," she urged, desperation thick in her voice. "If they've found you now, they won't stop until they get what they want. We have to run." What she said struck me as a mixed blessing and a curse. How could we possibly escape this? The memories flooded back, the betrayal, the choices that led us here, too tangled to simply be outrun. But for Evan, the connection we once shared may have sown the seeds of hope amidst this chaos. "Evan," I said softly, yet firmly, my gaze locking with his, steady yet pleading. "Don't let them take you. You are stronger than this. We can break free, we can fight together." His eyes widened, a myriad of emotions washing over his face: fear, anger, and, for the briefest breath of a moment, a flicker of trust. The air seemed to shift, just slightly, a thin thread bridging the gap between despair and a renewed sense of unity, yet, Hugo's voice sliced through the air with a quiet confidence that belied the storm swirling around us. You underestimate how deeply ingrained their hold is on him. They think they can save him, but the truth is he's already lost. Each word dripped with finality, a chilling omen that chilled us to the bone. And still, despite the formidable odds, Evan's hand twitched, the knife faltering yet again as he searched for purpose amidst the cacophony. Just as I thought the shadows would swallow my words, Derek stepped forward, facing the encroaching dark with fierce determination. No one's lost unless they choose to be, Hugo. You think this storm is just nature's wrath? This is the storm you created, and we're not afraid of what you stand for. We're together whether you like it or not. The pulse of defiance curled around us like the rising wind, momentarily holding back the tide of despair. Hope stirred within me, igniting a variable in this equation of chaos. Layla's unwavering support and Derek's bravery began weaving a fabric of possibility, a network of strength amidst the darkness. Hugo laughed, a twisted sound that echoed like shattering glass. Together? That's amusing. You really think unity can save you from what's already begun? Electricity crackled in the air, and I felt the surge of ancient energy binding us together. Me connection to Evan, Derek's fierce loyalty, and Layla's protection. We are stronger than you think, I declared, not entirely sure how those words would play out. With a swift movement that struck almost too suddenly, Evan hurled the knife away into the darkness, the metallic clang reverberating against the cobbled streets. You're wrong, he spat, his voice raw and resolute, filled with a darkness illuminated by newfound resolve. I'm not your puppet, and there'll never be a piece in your game, Hugo faltered, shock casting his features into a strange silhouette. The figures around him hesitated, as if tethered between the echoes of command and uncertainty. I saw a moment of vulnerability pass between them, glancing sideways at each other as the storm intensified, veils of rain obscuring their faces, but then, a wave of realization came over Evan, a swell of clarity driven by his past entangled with our shared moments of laughter, love, and pain. If we're going to fight, well, do it together. You will not take me again. With a shaky breath, my heart racing, I reached out to him, fingers brushing against skin vibrating with anticipation. In that instant, I felt the flicker of hope morph into a roaring flame as his grip tightened around mine. Yet, the storm had its own agenda. Just then, a blinding flash illuminated the shadows once more, revealing a startling figure emerging from the depths of rain, a familiar silhouette that had been lost, brought back in a flicker of the past. What have you done? The voice crackled, filled with venom and an all-too-familiar weight that brought shattered memories crashing down. My heart leapt, caught between recognition and horror, as the world around us spiraled further into chaos. I stood frozen, knowing that whatever was coming next would unearth a buried truth that could fracture our already tenuous bond, and with that, I realized we were not just entangled in a battle against darkness outside of us, we were waging war against the shadows festering inside, truths waiting to be unearthed that none of us could predict would be the ultimate betrayal or salvation. The torrential downpour continued, each droplet a harbinger of change as we stood on the precipice of revelation. A gust of wind swept through the alley, sending chills down my spine as the figures stepped closer, the outline becoming sharper, truth identity igniting a firestorm of memories that should have remained buried. That really you, Grace? I stammered, the name suspended in the air, weighed down by everything left unsaid. The last time I had seen her, the air had been thick with betrayal, a day marked forever in my mind like a scar. She looked different now, yet somehow painfully familiar. I didn't think I'd see you here, among this mess. The bite in her voice dripped with condescension, yet her eyes held a depth of conflict. Grace flicked a glance at Evan, the smile fading, replaced by an unreadable expression that seemed to widen the rift between us. Derek stood beside me, fists clenched, refusing to let her presence break the fragile unity we'd created. What do you want, Grace? He muttered, his voice low and steady as if trying to anchor us against her storm. Her laughter fractured the tension around us, an unsettling melody that echoed against the rain-drenched walls. What I want? Oh, Derek, what I want is for the past to stay buried, just as you all hoped it would. The cruel twist of her words sent a shudder through the group, darkening the flicker of hope that had ignited moments before. Did I ask that why you came back? To bury the truth some more. I shot back, desperation morphing into anger. You don't get to dictate how this ends. Not anymore, are you so naive? Grace snapped, stepping forward, the storm reflecting the turmoil within her. You think this is about you or me? If you have any idea what he has planned, you'll realize that secrets don't die as easily as we might wish. Her gaze darted to Hugo, who watched us with hungry malice. A shift in the atmosphere seemed to awaken an unseen power, reverberating through the ground beneath our feet. I had no idea which secrets Grace alluded to, but the underlying tension suggested it was something monumental, a time bomb poised to explode. Evan, caught in the crosshairs of our tumultuous reunion, remained silent, a storm of his own swirling within those cerulean eyes. 1,000 unspoken words hung between us, the laughter, the shared dreams, the unbearable pain of the choices left unmade. What do you know about Hugo? He finally managed, almost breathless. One day, the truth will unveil itself like a slow, torturous unwrapping of a gift bearing the cruelest intentions, Grace warned, her voice dipping low, charged with an energy that sent chills cascading down my spine. He isn't the only one with power. The game is so much bigger than you understand. For someone who supposedly wants nothing to do with us, you certainly seem hellbent on meddling, Derek accused, his defense unwavering, but even he seemed to falter at Grace's cryptic words. That a pained expression flitted across her face, a fleeting glimpse of vulnerability that stirred something deep within me. In that moment, I caught the shadow of the girl I once knew, yet the weight of the years past cast a pall over our connection. I'm here because I owe it to you all, she clarified. And there are much darker forces aligning in the shadows. You have to. But she was cut off mid-sentence as Hugo's laughter echoed out, sharper than the storm's howl. Look at you, Grace. Trying to play the hero after everything you've done. You can't quell the truth or the chaos it brings. Before she could retort, the air shattered with the sound of lightning, illuminating the scene in its stark brilliance, and just then, I glimpsed a figure moving behind her. For a heartbeat, I remembered the hope that had once suffused my life, a beacon lost to the darkness of memory. Is that how this will end? With secrets unraveling once more? I whispered, the realization of our intertwined fates crashing around us. We were not mere pawns in this game, we were all players, and the stakes had risen in ways we could barely comprehend. With each passing heartbeat, the storm raged on as if echoing the turmoil of our souls, yet a flicker of determination surged within me, an ember refusing to die out. If chaos is what we're facing, then let it come, I proclaimed, my voice rising against Hugo's chilling presence. We will not let fear dictate our fate anymore. But before I could gather the courage to face the truth lurking in the shadows, a roar of thunder split the night, drowning my words in the tempest. And then came the shift. The blinding light ushered in a new figure, emerging like a ghost from the storm, eyes locked onto me with a look that sent my heart racing. That I know the truth, and it's time to finish what was started, the figure said, their voice cutting through the chaos like a knife through flesh, awakening memories that had lain dormant for too long. This wasn't the end. It was merely the beginning of a reckoning that would challenge the very foundations of everything we thought we knew. The shadows had come alive, and they carried the weight of our past, a reminder that every secret has a cost and the bill was about to come due. The weight of the storm felt like a physical force pressing down on us, the thunder rumbling like a warning. The figure emerged from the drenched shadows, their silhouette all too familiar, sending shockwaves through the fragile unity we had fought so hard to forge. Lila, I whispered, as recognition struck me like lightning, jarring open memories I had locked away deep inside. She took a step closer, drenched from the rain, but it was her eyes that held me captive at a stormy depth, reflecting trials and truths I wished I had never known. It's time we stopped running from our pasts, she said, her voice steady despite the chaos swirling around us. Panic surged through me, twisting my thoughts. But how are you here? My voice trembled with disbelief. Why now? I came back to help clean up the mess we made and to reveal the truth that binds us all, she replied, brushing away a cascade of rain-soaked hair from her face. We couldn't let Hugo's return go unchallenged. He's gathering shadows, fabricating an army fueled by our histories. An army? Derek echoed, disbelief mingling with fear. It's deeper than you understand, Derek. Lila's gaze swept to Evan, and every ounce of tension gathered as the room turned electric with unspoken agony shared between us. You know the darkness, Evan, you can't keep hiding. None of us can. The knife once slung against my heart twisted again, and I looked at Evan, feeling every thread of fate tightening around us like a noose of choice. But instead of retreating, something surged inside him, a flicker of rebellion fighting against the storm of despair that sought to drown us all. You've all defined us by what we've lost, but I refuse to let Hugo dictate my fate. His voice rose above the falling rain, bold and unwavering. If we're going to face him, I need to know everything. All of it. No more secrets. Lila's expression softened, the weight of his words echoing painfully between us. You deserve that truth. You all do, she murmured, dragging the air taut with anticipation. Hugo didn't just come back to reclaim power, he wants to turn our history into his weapon. Derek stepped forward, the ambivalence within him replaced with fierce resolve. Then we have to be ready to fight back, not just for ourselves but for everything we lost. Yes, I exclaimed, the long-buried fire igniting in response to their determination. We have to gather our stories and the truth. This darkness won't win just because it lingers. I won't run again. Evan's declaration filled the air with a clarity that transformed our all-consuming fear into something vibrant, hope wrapped in courage. But just as we stood on the precipice of unity, Hugo's piercing laugh echoed, a sinister undertone woven with malice. Do you really believe you can stand against me? You're nothing but shadows in my game. With each beat of the rain upon my skin, I resolved to pull down the veils hiding truth from view. Shadows can be powerful too, I said softly, my voice unwavering. And shadows are only as dark as you let them be. Evan's gaze found mine, catching the flicker of something undeniably strong between USA promise of resilience. As storm clouds churned fiercely, it felt as though the world was coiling around us, gathering ferocity that mirrored our own. Lila's hand found mine, warm and anchoring, as Derek stepped beside us, unwavering in his resolution. We may not know what tomorrow brings, but together, we stand a chance, he affirmed, each word resonating deep within me, threading a tapestry of unity between us. The storm raged overhead, and tumult swirled in every moment of silence, each second tense with anticipation. Reclaim your power, Lila urged Evan, her voice a keen whisper among the pounding thunder. When we confront our demons, we pave the way for a future unbound by fear, and with that, a sudden jolt of realization coursed through me. Darkness didn't just lie in someone else's hands, it thrived in the forgotten corners of our hearts. Suddenly, memories of laughter and warmth flickered back to life, igniting the unity that had been buried beneath layers of pain that I turned to face. Every corner of my past, acknowledging the wounds while also accepting the evidence of our resilience. Let's put an end to this, I said, every word drenched in conviction. Our histories should not define us. We will bend the darkness to our will and step fully into the light. As the rain poured down, washing away doubt and fear, we faced the ghosts of our pasts, ready to reclaim who we were meant to be. Shadows danced behind us, but as we held on to each other, reminders of love and resilience readied ourselves for the battle ahead. Together, we will stand. Together, we will fight. With united strength, we turned back to face Hugo, determined to expose his lies and reclaim the narrative that had once haunted us. The storm roared like a chorus, and we charged forward, resolved to rewrite our story as warriors standing against darkness, undeniably stronger than the shadows of our past. In that powerful moment, I felt a renewed sense of hope enveloping us, a promise blooming even in the relentless storm that sometimes, war is waged not just against the shadows lurking outside, but within ourselves. And only when we embrace our truths can we emerge victorious.